I surveyed over 200 veterinarians and asked a very simple question. How much money do you make? In this video, I'm going to talk about two different things. The first is how veterinarians are paid, and the second is how much money veterinarians make across all different specialties. If you've ever had the pleasure of paying a veterinary bill and you've wondered to yourself, how much is my veterinarian making off of this? This video is for you. If you're a vet student or an intern and you're wondering how much you're even going to make once you finish all your training, this video is also for you. If you like bashing vets online and commenting how we're bought and paid for by big dog kibble, this video is also for you. If you think vets should work for free, then this video may not be for you. Guys, smash that like and subscribe button first. Let's get into it. All right, guys, first let's talk about how veterinarians are paid. And in the second part of this video, I'll go through my survey results to describe how much veterinarians are paid. I would venture to say that most veterinarians these days in private practice, especially small animal private practice, are paid based on what's called a pro-sal model. Pro-sal means a combination of production-based compensation combined with a guaranteed base rate salary, or what's called a base salary. In other words, a veterinarian's pay is based on their production or how much revenue they generate in a given time period. If they don't meet certain thresholds, they don't get a production bonus, but they do get paid their base salary. An example will make this much more easy to follow, so let's go through one really quick. Let's say a vet who we'll call Dr. Purina just signed a contract with a pro-sal pay structure. Dr. Purina works for a huge dog food clinic that pays a base salary of $900,000 a year based upon how many bags of dog food they sell. I'm just kidding. Let's do a real example now. Sorry, I have to. I got to come up with a character, Dr. Purina, where I just sell food and I make like $1,000, maybe like $70,000 a bag or something like that. Okay, I'm kidding. Let's do a real example. Dr. Jim just signed a contract with a practice that pays him under this pro-sal model. He earns a base salary of $120,000 a year, which comes out to $10,000 a month. Great math. He also earns 22% production paid out in the form of a monthly production bonus on top of his base salary. Let's say in the month of April 2024, Dr. Jim's gross production is $100,000. Gross production, sometimes called gross receipts, simply refers to all the things he did. The totality of all the invoices he was responsible for, like lab work, consults, diagnostic tests, surgeries, everything he did, the total cost of that, the invoices, they all added up to $100,000. That's his gross. Dr. Jim would get a bonus check at the end of this month for $12,000. Why $12,000? Isn't 22% of $100,000 equal to $22,000? It is, but Dr. Jim was already paid this $10,000 during the month in the form of his base salary. Thus, his bonus check is another $12,000 to yield a sum total of $22,000 during that month. Now, I had no idea how the system worked when I started, and it led to a lot of confusion, as I'm sure it does with many of you young vets and students out there. To help you with understanding this pay system, because it is so prevalent, here are some nuggets. Think of your total income per year as your gross production multiplied times your production percentage. That's it. Your base salary is sprinkled in between there to give you a more steady and consistent income, rather than having to rely upon a once a month or once a quarter payout. This base salary, though, is not in addition to your production bonus. So for example, if you gross $1 million worth of production during a calendar year and your production percentage is 22%, you are going to make $220,000 during that year. And you make that money through whatever combination of base salary and bonuses that you have set up. The total income you'll earn, assuming those two numbers, $1 million of gross receipts and 22% production rate, is $220,000 in this example. Make sense? Numbers could be different. Different things could qualify for production or not qualify based on your individual contract. You may meet production, you may not, but that's how much money you're going to make, assuming those two variables. Now, you may have picked up on the fact that under this model, your production percentage combined with the actual cost of goods are really what determines your actual income. If blood work costs $100 and your production percentage is 25%, you'll make $25 off of that. If the blood work costs $200 and you make 22% production, you'll make $44 on top of that. You can see how the cost of goods and the production percentage toggles back and forth to determine your overall pay rate. Now, for all of you students and younger vets out there, listen up, because here's something that you might come across in your career pretty early on. Sometimes an employer will present you with a raise where they increase your base salary while you're on this pro-sal model. This is a smoke and mirrors play that some employers try to misrepresent as a true raise when it's really not. The reasons for doing so can be numerous. I'm not going to get into that. But here's why this is not a raise. Let's say from the example above, I was making $120,000 base salary and 22% production. My corporate regional manager comes down from Mount Corporate, having just completed their management degree, and they have exciting news for me. I'm getting a raise. My base salary is going up to $200,000 a year. Aren't I excited? So now my monthly base salary is $16,666 a month. 200,000 divided by 12. I go to work, and again, the next month, my gross production, i.e. the sum total of all the procedures and diagnostics I did in that month, is $100,000 again, just like it was the month before. I'm still earning 22% production rate. That's the key. 22% of $100,000 is $22,000 during that month, like it was before. However, now, because I've already been paid my base salary, I subtract $16,666 from $22,000, which leaves a bonus check of $5,334. Overall, nothing has really changed. I'm still making $22,000 a month just like I did before. The take-home message here is that all that really determines your pay is the cost of goods and your production percentage. That's it. In this day and age, and from what I've gathered in my 15 years of working in private practice, aka corporate America, production percentages break down into the following brackets. General practice vets generally earn 20 to 22% production. Emergency vets usually earn about 20 to 25% production, and specialists generally earn anywhere between 22 to 30% production rates. I really don't have an explanation as to why specialists earn a higher margin like that. My guess is that specialists are doing more expensive things like, say, MRIs, like what I do, complicated surgeries. So the price tag is higher, and the hospital can afford to siphon some of that profit margin off to the specialists rather than themselves. Specialists are also in really, really short supply, so that low supply probably helps as well. Just supply demand economics there. So next time you're at the vet and you get your bill and you're wondering, how much is my vet making off of this bill? There's a good chance that it's around 20 to 25% or so, depending on the type of vet that you're seeing. Now, obviously, not every single vet is paid like this. Some are paid strict salary only. Some are paid production only with no base salary whatsoever. Just depends on how the practice is set up. Now, there's an obvious question here, and you might be saying it to yourself right now, which is, isn't it a conflict of interest for a vet to be getting paid a cut of the things that they recommend to me and my pet? Doesn't that incentivize vets in the wrong way, like kind of like how a used car salesman is incentivized? I totally get this concern. I really do. Like it's a major issue and a major debate in veterinary medicine. But at the end of the day, I do think this pro-sal model is probably the most fair and balanced way to pay a vet. This pay structure allows a vet to get paid directly proportional to how skilled they are and how hard they work and how many cases they see. So the more pets and pet parents that they help, the more they get paid. A straight salary with no production bonus just runs the risk of underpaying a vet and overpaying an employer. Or in the opposite direction, a straight salary could overpay a vet who doesn't really want to work that hard and not see very many cases. And I get the concern too that pro-sal could lead to vets recommending unnecessary tests just to make money. Like, that's a valid concern. I totally get that. What I will say to that is, everywhere I've worked, if you were to be the type of vet who just runs tests for no reasons to run up bills and make a lot of money, you'd be called out in no time flat by your colleagues and the support staff, and ownership would probably fire you pretty quickly if you kept doing that. Now let's talk about how much vets are paid. A few months ago, I created an open source spreadsheet accessible through my socials, and on this spreadsheet, vets of various specialties and disciplines could anonymously post one simple data point. How much money do they make? I wanted to make this document as an attempt to try and get a snapshot of where veterinarian salaries stand in 2024, because this information is surprisingly difficult to come across online. And even after one sabotage attempt in late December, I was able to refresh the spreadsheet and go to a prior version. Nice try, guy. Ha ha ha. Bye bye bye. F you, doctor. I'm angry that you tried to ruin all this work, but at the same time, it's pretty hilarious. Maybe you knew that there was a version history that I could just go past and get through this. F you, doctor. So even after that sabotage attempt, I was able to get to an earlier version history and pull up some data. So let's review the spreadsheet now and see how much veterinarians are self-reporting as their incomes. Quick disclaimer, guys, no judgment here. I just want to provide objective data for you, especially for students in college or vet students or even new grads who are just like unsure of what to even expect coming out of school. This information is surprisingly difficult to find online, so I'd rather just have it straight from the source, and so that's what I'm trying to do. Please don't associate numbers with like how good you're doing. Okay, good or bad. That's not the purpose of this. I'm not trying to judge anybody's income. I applaud people who are doing a good job and working hard and doing well. And I want to encourage that financial success for sure. But judgment-free zone here. Okay, so just laying that out there. But let's get started. First, we've got the large animal folk. And what you'll see here is we're in that like $100,000 base salary range. I only got 3 responses from large animal GPs, but that's about where they ended up. And then in the other, you've got, again, we're in that like 100K range worth of like base salary with like sometimes getting production, sometimes not. That just depends, I assume, on who or where you're working. One person listed as a mixed animal practitioner, a $350K annual salary in a rural impoverished area. So I am assuming that this person is working extremely hard and seeing a huge, huge volume of cases. And my guess is they're probably one of only a few doctors within a huge geographical radius to serve their community. Good job by you. I'm guessing that you're bringing a lot of care to a lot of pets and people that can't really find it elsewhere. So really good job there, I am assuming. All right, moving on to small animal GP. This is where there's a pretty decent range. See, the first response here is 215K, no details, 141, no details. 100K base salary with quarterly production, so we're making 120K. 2021 grad making 120K. So we got a 175 base and production to 200 annual income, 220K annual income, Massachusetts. So yeah, let's say GP, we're kind of in that low 100s base salary range with, again, that 20 to 22% production rate, yielding a variable amount of annual income. One thing that jumped out at me was a vet in the UK listed 66,000 base salary with no production. I've heard that vets in Europe make a lot less than vets in the United States, but I don't know enough about the economics. So if you're a vet in Europe or the UK in this case, please leave a comment below and let me know, how things are going there and how you feel about your income, I guess. But yeah, feel free to educate me further on any, vet income overseas. So this one jumped out at me. This is a 2023 grad, corporate GP in Minneapolis, 130K plus variable production, but usually about 19.5%. $80,000 sign-on bonus for 18-month commitment. That is really nice. And 7 weeks of PTO. Again, I don't know your job in your clinic. I have no idea who this person is, but just from a few sentences of information there, that seems like a really nice compensation package. So that one jumped out at me for sure. We've got some vets in the Bay Area, Northern California, that are listing, 265K base. This person in Northern California, 2006 grad, listed a $300,000 total annual income with 5 weeks of PTO. Again, things I'm sure are a little bit inflated in Northern California, but that's pretty good at the end of the day, right? Like that's not, even with some inflation, that's not bad at all. So this one jumped out at me as well. 2006 grad, small animal relief. I assume that means that they're working their own schedule and just kind of filling in where practices need veterinarians, which is everywhere. Let's see, Dallas Fort Worth, 230 to 250K a year. Wow. That is also very good. This one's 120K base with 25% production. That's very solid production rate for GPs. You usually don't see them that high. We're usually in that 20 to 22% range. And then we finish it out here with like a 2017 grad, 150K in Massachusetts, 2021 grad, 100K Southwest Ohio, 40 work week, 2012 grad, corporate practice. So I think the take-home message here for GPs is that you're usually going to be as a base salary somewhere in that like 100 to 120K range a year, with production bonuses on top of that as a percentage is like 20 to 22% usually. And then there's also the factor of like where you work. If you're in a really high cost of living area like Northern California, everything's going to go up, right? But overall, those are like very strong incomes, at least from what is being reported to me in this small data set. So up next, we have animal chiropractors. No, I'm just kidding. So, all right, guys, now let's get into the ER side of things, small animal emergency. And some of the numbers here are going to shock you. So the first response is 280 to 290K at 10 shifts a month. That's pretty strong. Another person lists about 200K gross in Wisconsin. That's pretty strong. Let's see. We got a full-time ER only relief aiming for 9 shifts a month. 230K gross, working 9 shifts a month. That's like pretty dang good. Full-time ER relief. This is the one that jumped out to me the most. This is crazy, but in a good way. Okay. And I applaud this person. Full-time ER relief, 20 to 22 shifts per month. That's a lot. 750,000 expected gross. That is, I've never heard of a vet making that much. I don't think this person's lying either. Like, why would you lie? It's an anonymous survey. They're also working a ton, 22 shifts a month. But yeah, I mean, that would do it. Like if you're working 22 shifts a month, that's like 260, 70 or so shifts a year. And you're probably making like $3,000 a shift working these, ER relief shifts, especially where it's super busy, which is like everywhere. Man, 20 to 22 shifts a month, 750K expected gross. That is just eye-popping. And I always applaud veterinary financial success. So I applaud you, person, whoever you are out there. I don't know who you are. It doesn't say on the spreadsheet. Man, that is like, good job. I applaud your success. Removing that outlier a little bit, but we've got some other like really strong numbers here, like 270K in Pennsylvania, 300K, 10 to 12 shifts a month. So guys, my wife works relief as an ER vet predominantly, and I am of the current opinion that working ER and trying to become a skilled ER vet is probably the most bang for your buck, if you want to think of it that way, career choice you can make as a vet student. I think that if you are saddled with a ton of student loan burden and you don't want to do a residency and go through that 4 to 5 year process, becoming as good of an ER vet as you possibly can and entering into this sort of a market is going to be your ticket to like paying off your student loans and becoming like financially independent and possibly even retiring early. Yeah, I mean, the data doesn't lie. And I know many ER doctors, and these sorts of numbers are what's being, paid out to them these days. So again, small animal ER, don't sleep on it. I got one response from a criticalist, that's ECC, 210K base with 25% production at a corporate practice in Nevada. Actually, I'm not sure how criticalists get compensated, if it's usually a base with a production bonus on top. Criticalists are kind of like jack of all trades in a lot of hospitals, and they kind of have a supervisory role, and they don't always take cases in primarily as like receiving doctors. So the finances and how you pay them is a little bit less straightforward. But if you are a criticalist and you kind of can shed some light on this, feel free to leave a comment below. So now moving into my specialty, which is neurology. I only got 3 responses here, but I can speak to neurology pretty well because I'm a neurologist. So in neurology, you have 2 types of neurologists. You've got medical neurologists, which don't do surgery. And then you've got neurologists like me who do surgery. Okay. Sometimes we call them cutting neurologists, which I know that's a bad term, but it just means, we do surgery. The neurologists that do surgery will make more at the end of the day because you're just doing more procedures. And we live in an economy where income is procedural based a lot of the time. Okay. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. That's a different discussion for another day, but that's just the reality of the situation. Okay. But neurologists who do surgery will generally make, I would say, significantly more than medical neurologists. I'm just speaking, factually there. The 3 responses I got range from 300,000, 400,000, and 275,000 Canadian. Here's how I would look at neurology. If you're a medical neurologist these days, meaning you're doing MRIs and spinal taps, epilepsy management, electrodiagnostics, those sorts of things, it's pretty doable to make like 200 to 250K a year, like without doing any surgery. The way prices are these days, the way production rates are, that's very doable. Now, if you're throwing surgery into that equation on top of that, then I have seen salaries that get up into like the 500K a year range with neurosurgeries. I'm not going to say what I make. I'll tell you, it's not 500K a year. That I'm comfortable saying. But I have it on good authority, and I know neurologists that are clearing that on an annual basis, and that is amazing money. There's no other way to say it. Surgery is the same way. You see the actual responses here. I think surgery is the highest paying specialty in veterinary medicine overall. Your ceiling is like through the roof when it comes to being a surgeon, because everything you do is a procedure. It's an action that your hands are doing, right? So you can justify getting paid for everything you do rather than like using your mind, right? But surgery, the responses were $500,000, $500,000, $500,000, 4-day work week, no on call. That's a pretty good quality of life. Like, that is a great quality of life. Another person's at $400K. Other surgeons in the hospital likely making greater than $500K with a $240K base in Texas. So yeah, there are some serious incomes in veterinary medicine in general, but especially specialty medicine. Like, these incomes overlap by a wide margin, like medical doctor, human medicine doctors, which is pretty crazy that we live in that day and age. Medical oncology, we've got $280K a year. We got $140K a year. 2023, I got 2 responses there. I got 1 internist that responded with $130K plus 30% production, which is really, really solid. I don't know what that equates to, but if you're making 30% production, I would have to think you for sure clear $200K a year, but maybe a lot more. Radiology, I think most radiologists are clearing over $300K a year. This person listed $320. Radiology seems to be one of the higher earning specialties these days. I didn't get any responses from ophthalmology. Dentistry, 1 person listed $180. Anesthesia, there's anesthesiologists in case you didn't know, $200,000, got 1 listed there. I did not get any cardiology, but I have it on good authority that cardiologists are clearing $250 to $300K a year pretty readily these days, because they just do so many echocardiograms. Avian and exotics, I got 2 responses here. We're in the 120 to 135, 135 to 150K range. And then we got a whole bunch of like random, I don't want to say random. I got a whole bunch of just non-categorical types of specialists, academic researcher, HVHQSN. Is that like home shopping network? No, that's high volume, high quality spay neuter, right? Nonprofit 89.9. Lab animal 109 at a university, shelter 110, shelter med 100, behaviorist, lab animal, public practice. So you see kind of some of the numbers there going down. So I hope you found this information useful. I just wanted to provide this data for you just as like information, more or less. I'm going to do it next year too, and hopefully I get an even bigger response. But I think the take-home message here is that veterinary medicine from a financial standpoint and like income potential is not as doom and gloom as many would have you think. Like, you can have a very good quality of life, support your family, and I think retire early and pay off your student loans with some of these numbers. Again, not everybody is in some great financial position. I totally get that. But the industry as a whole just doesn't seem to be as pessimistic as perhaps even I thought a few years ago. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Please hit the like and subscribe button, help grow the channel. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you on the next video.